Learning objectives. Describe and explain the nature of sales transactions. Identify the functional and operation of agency in the industry. Identify ways of handling credit transaction. The law on sale typically refers to regulation governing the sales of goods and services. It encompasses the various legal principles such as contract formation, warranties, product liability, consumer protection, and more. Depending on that jurisdiction, this law aims to ensure the fairness and transparency and accountability of commercial transactions. Article 1458 of the Civil Code pertain to the transfer of ownership through a sale. It states that the vendee buyer acquires ownership of the property upon this delivery, except when there is a contrary stipulation. This article establishes a fundamental principle on sale contract, emphasizing the significance of delivery in the transfer of ownership. Article 1480 of the Civil Code stipulates that any loss of gain concerning the item sold occurring between the time of contract is finalized the moment of delivery is subject to the provision outlined in Articles 2062 and onward. This means that responsibilities and liabilities related in the item during this period of determined by the rules governing contract and obligations, ensuring clarity and legal resources of both parties involved in the sales. Article 1262 of the Civil Code establishes that an obligation requiring the delivery of a specific item will be determined if the item is lost or destroyed through no fault or the debtor of the and before the debtor has defaulted on their obligations. These provisions protect the debtor from liability in situations where they are fulfilled their duty to deliver the item, but circumstances beyond their control such as accidental loss or destructions prevent completion. Article 1496 of the Civil Code states that ownership of the sold item is transferred to the buyer upon delivery as outlined in Articles 1597 to 1501 or through any other method indicating the agreement between the seller and the buyer and possessions has been transferred. This article highlights the importance of delivery in the transfer of ownership and provides legal clarity regarding the moments when ownership rights are effectively transferred from the seller to the buyer in the sales transactions. Article 1544 of the Civil Code deals with a situation where the same item is sold to different buyers. If the item is movable personal property, ownership is transferred to the person who first acquires in a good faith. If the item is immovable real property, ownership belongs to the person who acquires it in a good faith in the first records in the registry of the property. In case where there is no registrations, ownership goes to the person with the oldest title provided by the acted in a good faith. This article ensures clarity and fairness in determining the ownership rights when there are competing claims in the property. Article 1601 of the Civil Code pertains of the conventional redemption which occurs when the seller reserves the right to repurchase the item sold, subject of the conditions specified in the Article 1616 and any other agreed upon stipulation. This article establishes the legal framework of the architectural arrangement where the seller retains the option of the reclaim the sold property under the determining terms of conditions. Article 1495 of the Civil Code establishes the obligations of the seller in a sale transactions. Specifically, it states that the seller is obligated for the transfer ownership delivered with the sold item and provide a warranty for it. This article underscores the responsibilities of the sellers to ensure that the buyer receive the purchase item in accordance with the terms of the sales agreement and with a certain assurance regarding its quality and conditions. Article 1496 of the Civil Code states the ownership of the sold item is acquired by the buyer from the moment it is delivered to them. This article emphasizes the significance of delivery in the transfer of ownership in a sale transaction, highlighting the point at which the buyer becomes rightful owner of the purchased item. Article 1497 of the Civil Code specifies that the sold item is considered delivered when it is placed under the control of the possession of the buyer. This article clarifies that the moment of which the sellers fulfills their obligations to deliver the item to the buyer, emphasizing the importance of transferring the physical control of the possessions of the completion of the sales transaction. Article 1582 of the Civil Code outlines the obligation of the buyer in a sale transaction. It states that the buyer is obligated to accept delivery of the sold item and pay the agreed upon price of the specified time and place as is stipulated in the contract. This article emphasizes the buyer's responsibilities in fulfilling their parts of the sale agreement, ensuring a smooth and orderly completion of the transaction. Article 1868 of the Civil Code defines the contract of the agency as an agreement whereby one person obligates themselves to perform a service or undertake an action on behalf of another, with the letter's consent of the authority. This article establishes the legal framework of agencies relationships where one party acts on behalf of another party, typically to facilitate transactions or represents interests. Article 1883 of the Civil Code addresses the situations where an agent acts in their own name rather than on behalf of the principal. In such cases, the principal cannot take legal actions against of the parties with whom the agent has contracted, nor can those parties take legal actions against the principal. Instead, the agents become directly bound of the other party as if the transactions were their own, except one of the contracts involved item belongings in the principal. This article clarifies the legal consequences when an agent operates in their own capacity rather than as a representative of the principal. Article 2088 of the Civil Code specifies the limitations of the creditor's right regarding pledge of mortgage items. The creditor is prohibited from appropriating disposing of these items. Additionally, any agreements contrary of the provision is considered null or void. This article safeguards the rights of the debtors, ensure that the creditor does not abuse their positions by unlawful seizing of disposing the pledge or mortgage assets.